So this is chapter 10, lesson 6 on problem solving. I'm going to walk through all of the problems from the classwork page, and these are the same that are on the Think Central. So you could use this as a reference. I suggest you putting some of these examples and the charts in your notes. You can have them for when you take your chapter test. So here's the first problem. Eduardo has a drinking cooler that holds 10 gallons of water. He's filling the cooler with a 1 quart container. How many times will he have to fill the quart container to fill the cooler? So they made a table, and you could pretty much see, if you remember from gallon person, 1 gallon equals 4 quarts. So there's your rule. The number of gallons times, for every gallon, you have 4 quarts. So if I have 2 gallons, I have 8 quarts. If I have 3 gallons, I have 12 quarts. If I have 4 gallons, I have 16 quarts. And obviously, if I have 10 gallons, I have 40 quarts. So you're multiplying the number of gallons by 4. Now, how many times will he need to fill the container? So if I look, he'll need to fill the container 40 times, because that's 40 quarts, to fill up the 10 gallons. Now we take it to the next step. What if Eduardo uses 32 quarts? How can you use the chart to help you? Well, the rule is for the number of gallons, you times it by 4. So what number times 4 equals 32 quarts? So when I know that a number of gallons times 4 is going to give me 32, I know my math facts, and I know that 8 gallons times 4 is 32. And I know that if I continued this chart, I'm missing gallons 5 through 9 here. So I know that 8 would fit into this pattern. So we can use the table to see that the rules multiply the number of gallons by 4. And that's how you know that 8 gallons times 4 would give you 32 quarts. Now the next one is, if Eduardo uses 1 cup container to fill the cooler, how will that affect the number of times he has to fill the container to fill the cooler? So we're not using a 1 quart container now, we're using a 1 cup container. So we need to figure out how many cups are in a gallon. So we have to go back to your gallon person. So if I look at my gallon person, I know that 1 gallon has 16 cups in it. And we could also just do the reverse conversions of 1 pint equals 2 cups, 1 quart equals 2 pints, which means 1 quart equals 4 cups, 1 gallon equals 4 quarts, so 4 quarts equals 16 gallons. It's kind of just work your way up, or you could just count all the cups on gallon person. So if Eduardo uses 1 cup container to fill the cooler, how will that affect the number of times he has to fill a container to fill the cooler? Well, it just means that if he has a 10-gallon container and it takes 16 cups for 1 gallon, we can multiply that to know how many cups he's going to need, which is ridiculous, because why would you fill something up 160 times to fill up a container? It's a lot of work, Eduardo. All right, next problem. Maria puts trim around a banner that is the shape of a triangle. Okay, so we know a triangle has how many sides? 3 sides. So that's your first piece of information. Each side is 22 inches long. Okay, so I have inches. So I know that I'm going to do 22 inches times my 3 sides. And that's going to give me my total number of inches. Next, Maria has half a foot of trim left. What was the length of the trim when she started? Write your answer in yards. Okay, so now we have to change the 66 inches to feet, because that's how much, or half a foot. She has 6 inches of trim left. So we could just kind of think of keeping it in inches and then going to yards, or changing inches to feet and then yards. So if I know that my triangle is 66 inches around, and I know that half a foot equals 6 inches. And that's how much is left. I can take my perimeter, or the shape around the triangle, 66 inches, add it to my 6 inches of material that is left, and that gives us the length of the trim when she started in inches, which would be 72 inches. That's how much the material was. Now you need to convert your 72 inches to yards. And if we use our conversion chart, we know that 1 yard is 3 feet, and I know that 3 feet equals 36 inches. So I have, or I could divide the 72 inches by 12, get feet, and then do the feet to yards, which would be smaller measurements, because instead of doing 36 into 72, I could do my feet into inches, but I also know math facts and I can multiply. So I'm going to go inches to yards because I think it's just a little bit quicker. So 1 yard equals 36 inches, or 3 feet. Now I have a small unit of measure, and I'm going to take my small unit of measure and I'm going to divide to get my total yards. So this was my expression that I'm going to use to get to my final answer. And I just know some basic math, and I know that 6 times 2 is 12, so that would give me a 2 in the ones place. 3 times 2 is 6, carry the 1 would give me 7. So I know that 2 yards is my answer. Next, Dan owns 9 DVDs. His brother Mark has 3 more than Dan has. His sister Marcia has, this really isn't even a measurement problem. So if I know that Dan has 9 DVDs, I know that Mark has 3 more DVDs than Dan, so I know that's 9 plus 3 should give me 12. And Marcia has more DVDs than either of her brothers. Together, the 3 of them have 35 DVDs. So I don't know Marcia. I'm going to put Marcia with an S. Marcia is my unknown number of my DVDs. And this is 9 DVDs, and this is 12 DVDs. I'm just going to put a number next to it. When we did this in one of the previous chapters, we drew a diagram and we did pictures for each of our variables that we had. And altogether, I know that Dan plus Mark plus Marcia all equals 35. So the best way I can figure this one out is I can start by adding Dan and Mark together, which is 12. We already did that. Or he has 12. So if Dan has 9 and Mark has 12, together they have That makes sense. So if we take our total of 35 and we take it away from 21, we get 14 DVDs, which is how much Marcia has. All right, next. Kevin is making a picture frame. He has a piece of trim that is 4 feet long. How many 14-inch long pieces can Kevin cut from the trim? How much of a foot will be left over? So we know that this is going to be a division problem because they're saying how many feet will be left over. And we're kind of going from like inches to feet and back again. So the trim is 4 feet. So I know that 4 feet equals 30, oops, pardon me, 48. I'm looking at the wrong thing here. 4 feet equals 48 inches. Let's see, I'm typing on this. And how many 14-inch long pieces can Kevin cut from the trim? So I want to take my 48 inches and I want to divide it by 14, and my answer will give me how many pieces I can get from that. All right, so I know that my 48 inches divided by 14 inches, because that's how many pieces I want to get. And when you do your division and you work it out, you're going to get 3 remainder 6. So what does this mean? This means that 3 pieces, you can get 3 14 long pieces. So you get 3 pieces that are 14 inches long, and the leftover piece is 6 inches. Remember, I'm using my unit of measure is inches, but it's asking how much of a foot will be left over. Well, I know that 6 inches is half a foot, so I can say that this is half a foot. Next, explain how you can find the number of cups in 5 gallons of water. So this problem is using gallon person, and we actually used this conversion earlier, and we know that 1 gallon equals 16 cups. So explain how you can find the number of cups in 5 gallons of water. And in this explanation, you are going to explain that 1 gallon is, you can go from gallons to quarts to pints to cups, and that's how we get to 16 cups. And if I have 5 gallons, we also need to mention that when we convert large units to small units, our large unit being gallons in this problem, and our smaller unit being cups, that we multiply. And our conversion is going to be 5 gallons times 16 cups, and that's going to give me the number of cups in 5 gallons. Gallons, 5 gallons of water. And you're just going to make sure you're writing that in complete sentences. There we go. All right, next. Carla uses 2 3/4 cups of whole wheat flour and 1 3/8 cup of rye flour in her bread recipe. How many cups does she use in all? Oh, my friends, if you thought you were done adding mixed numbers and fractions, you are not. Oh, how I love this problem. So you just need to add the cups together, and that is it. As a reminder, you need to first get an LCD. And if you don't know that your LCD is 8, so then you need to rename 2 3/4. So just remember that you need to rename 2 3/4 to get 8 as your denominator. Then you can add your 2 mixed numbers. You add the whole numbers, add the numerators, denominator stays as 8. You're going to get another improper fraction. So then you are going to have to regroup and make another mixed number and add it to the whole number. And that's how many cups they use in all. All right, a large pot holds 12 gallons of soup. Jared has 1 pint container of chicken broth. Complete the table to show how you would find the number of 1 pint containers that of chicken broth they'll need. So for this problem, we need to know that 1 gallon, looking at our gallon person, 1 gallon, and he's using 1 pint containers. So 1 gallon has 2 pints. So if I have 2 gallons, that means I have 4 pints. And our rule is that we are multiplying each number by 2. So if I have this is 8, and so on, so on, so on. So if I have 12, multiply that through, and that's how many 1 pint containers you'll need to fill the pot. This is the same as the Think Central, so I suggest you go through these problems as you're completing the Think Central. Notice that these charts, a lot of them have been reoccurring. A lot of these problems have gallons and cups, and then inches to yards. So remember those conversion factors. Maybe highlight them in your notebook, and we'll be using them for our chapter review when we do that on Thursday and the chapter test on Friday. You're going to do the 452 AB, which is going to be the homework page to go with this lesson after your Think Central.